Okay, let's react to the Week 13 AP poll after the bumper.
Don't be cornering me. Hold up. Time. You gotta help me with that corner shit.
What's up, kid folks? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload every single day. It's always college-related, sports-related. We have a good time. Today, I want to react to the Week 13 AP poll with some takeaways and some analysis. Also want to encourage you, sign up for my newsletter. It is free. Give me your trash email account, Yahoo. If you got a trash Gmail account, I use Gmail for almost everything, so that's not me. SBC.global, Hotmail, AOL, whatnot, whatever. And if you do that between now and December 7th, you'll be entered to win the Hertz lamp. And you don't have to be an OU fan to enjoy the Hertz lamp. You can be an Alabama fan and really enjoy the Hertz lamp, especially with the knowledge that, well, Mac Jones is your backup quarterback. Also, if you are not really into it, you can re-gift it because I'm going to send it out, pretty soon. So you're going to get it in time for Christmas. And I'm going to put out a banger newsletter earlier, or I should say later tonight. I put one out earlier today about Kyler Murray and Baker Mayfield and the NFL and generational gaps and whatnot. And I've been told that I've been doing some pretty good work, and over 1,000 people have subscribed in the past week. So it's going well. All right. So let's start with the top. Let's work our way down. Number 1, LSU. LSU did not play like a number 1 team as they gave up 37 to Ole Miss, who was 4-7. And I get that John Reese Plumlee is a dude, and I get that John Reese Plumlee is really, really fast. And we're going to have a lot of fun watching him play in Rich Rodriguez's offense and what Mississippi could be next year. But LSU, being a number 1 team, is not supposed to give up that many points to a bad football team, especially one like Ole Miss that is very much one-dimensional. We're talking about giving up 612 yards to an LSU offense, to an Ole Miss offense, and giving up 402 on the ground. To which I gotta wonder, is that the kind of team that you could expect to win a national championship? I don't think so. They're not as bad as Oklahoma was last year. Oklahoma was in an entirely different zip code when we're talking about bad defense. But what we do know is you have to have a really good defense to win the college football playoff national championship this year, and just as you have in years past. Don't know if LSU has been playing that way, especially when you take into account they gave up 38 to 2-8 Vanderbilt. Just not a good look. The 41 to Alabama is one thing, but again, playing to your competition defensively is a thing that LSU's been doing all year, and that's just not what I want to see from the number 1 team in the country, but I don't have a problem with them being number 1. LSU's your number 1. Number 2, we got Ohio State, 10-0. They beat the hell out of Rutgers, but since Rutgers covered, do we even get to consider Ohio State as a top 10 team? I'm joking. But that's kind of what it was here. I mean, you were talking about being a 50.5-point favorite in Piscataway, and, that they had to play that game in the first place. Whatever. Ohio State at number 2, they probably won't slide any further than that. They'll be in the college football playoff semifinal. Even with a loss, they win the Big Ten championship. Even if they lose the Big Ten championship somehow, I could see the committee putting them in because they are one of the best teams in college football. Offensively, defensively, they are balanced. They score a lot of points. They give up even fewer. Ryan Day has it humming right along. That man is undefeated as a head coach, and they're into double-digit wins through 10 games already. Expect Ohio State to be there at the end. I actually would really very much enjoy watching Clemson and Ohio State play each other, but we'll see if that gets to happen. Could, because as the rankings in the AP, Clemson's 11-0 with a destruction of Wake Forest, and that's really Clemson's calling card this year. Yes, they play in a weak Atlantic Coast Conference. Yes, Wake Forest is the best team in that conference that they have played to date, and store brand Cam Newton and them had no answers for your man's Justin Ross, your man's T. Higgins, your man's Travis Etienne, and of course your man's Sunshine Trevor Lawrence. Isaiah Simmons is going to be a first-round draft pick. We all know this, and we expect it. Dave Clawson's Wake Forest is going to be good, just like I expect North Carolina next year is going to be good. And then we can talk about the ACC perhaps regaining its Power 5 status, for which the American is very much the 5th best conference in all of college football, but that's another upload. I have snot, so sometimes I have to snort, and I'm sorry about it. But I think that that's where we're going to have to put Clemson as 3 just because the schedule just didn't break that way for them. They didn't play that many ranked teams. I mean, 1, honestly, and that's an A&M team that we don't really think is that good, but we all expect Clemson to be that good because that's what they've been. And Dabo Swinney is on quite the tear. It's like 126 and 13 or something stupid like that. And he's won the last 4 straight league titles, and he is one of the greatest college football coaches of all time, and he's not even going to turn 50 until November 20th. So Clemson's got that going for them, and I expect him to be there at the end. I don't have a problem with them at 3. Georgia at 4 with a good win against an Auburn team that played with Georgia. But what we're learning about Georgia is that they can't score on decent defenses, right? I mean, that's what we saw from Kevin Steele. They played outstanding defense for most of the game. It's just you got Bo Nix at quarterback, and you got Gus Malzahn calling plays like he just discovered his playbook in NCAA 14. I couldn't get with the play calling. I watched most of that game, and I was frustrated by the Auburn offense as much as I was impressed by the Georgia defense. But if Georgia's defense can continue to just keep the offense in these games where they just kind of cruise out 14-point wins or at least 14-point cushions, they're going to be tough to beat. And I'm really interested to see what this Georgia defense does against LSU, as we pretty much got clinched. SEC East, SEC West, LSU versus Georgia for the SEC title. Georgia could still very much get into the playoff with a win against LSU, and then we'd have some questions about LSU, but probably end up putting them in there anyway with the one loss. But I got some problems with Georgia at 4, but I've said that already, so we're just going to leave it. Alabama at 5 is interesting because the AP voters know what most people know. Tua Tagovailoa is done playing football this season. We'll see if he is done playing college football forever. That seems to be the likely thing, as if he's not the number 1, he's the number 2 overall pick in the 2020 draft. Chase Young will have something to say about that. But is Alabama a top 5 team with Mac Jones at quarterback? They are certainly a different team. But are they a top 5 team? I don't know. I haven't seen enough Mac Jones, and to be truthful, nobody has. This is a 3-star athlete that was supposed to be the bridge between Tua and Tallulah, his little brother, or even Bryce Young, who could be coming in with the 2020 class. But Mac Jones was never supposed to be in this place. But then again, he's here now because Nick Saban left Tua in up 35-7, and I get football players want to play and competitors want to compete, but you also want to win national championships. Is Alabama good enough to win a national championship with Mac Jones? Because this ain't Cardale Jones. That's not what this is. And this certainly isn't the Alabama team that the Ohio State team was in 2014. First, that loss was earlier in the year against Vodtech at number 8. And second, they went from 1, 2 to 3, their third-string quarterback, and they still were able to run the table and beat the hell out of people, and they won a conference championship. Alabama will not win a conference championship this year, so it's interesting to see them at number 5. Number 6, Oregon, demonstrative win against a bad Arizona team, 34-6. They've won every game they played since losing to Auburn in a game that they should have won. That is their strongest case to date, is when we got to play these teams that play LSU close, that play Georgia close, we nearly beat them. You know this. You know that if you give us an opportunity, we're probably going to give you a run for their money, and we probably are going to play outstanding defense. To say nothing of what Justin Herbert is or isn't, I think if anything, his stock has gone down since coming back, but I don't know. We'll see. Also helps them that UCLA took a 49-3 drubbing by Utah, which we'll get to. Right now, Utah 9-1. Again, Oregon, Utah at 6-7 are on a collision course in Pac-12, where the Pac-12 is hoping that one of those two teams ends up getting selection into the playoff, but a lot of things have to break their way. Certainly need Georgia to lose that SEC title game. You certainly would like to see Clemson take an L. You certainly would like to see LSU take an L, but that doesn't help you. I think Georgia taking the L is going to help one of these Pac-12 teams the most. Oklahoma at number 8 with its biggest come-from-behind victory in school history. 25 points down in the second quarter. Come back to win that game 34-31. It was awesome. I made an upload about it. You might check that one out if you haven't already. It was a lot of fun. It was not fun for the first half because Oklahoma was getting beat like stole something, and we were all coming apart, but Oklahoma did what nobody else has done in the past 15 years. There have been 902 games in which a ranked opponent was up 25 points on another ranked opponent, on an unranked opponent. And those games are won in 902, but I get that Oklahoma's number 10 and Baylor's number 13. I think the stat for me is that Matt Rhule was 38-0 as a head coach when his team was tied or led going into the fourth quarter, and that's what it was. So for Lincoln Riley, Alex Grinch to make adjustments to come back from 28-3 down, 31-10 at the half, and go win this game in Waco in front of the largest crowd ever at a Baylor football game is awesome. Are they going to make the college football playoff? Probably not. But if things do break their way and they continue to reel off ranked victories and get, a ranked Oklahoma State team, which feels like they will, and they get a ranked opponent like Baylor in the Big 12 championship that they beat up on again, maybe the committee sees that Oklahoma is a better football team than it was last year defensively and just as good as it was last year offensively with Jalen Hurts doing Jalen Hurts stuff, right? 297 yards passing, 114 yards on the ground, 4 tutties. Also put the ball on the ground twice on fumbles and threw a pick. But it's going to be interesting to see if they're in that discussion toward the end. At number 9, Penn State got a good win against a good Indiana team. I thought Indiana fought well. Peyton Ramsey coming off the bench after getting benched earlier in this year with Michael Penix going down. Showed out. I think Peyton Ramsey on a better football team is an outstanding quarterback. But shout out to Penn State and how it fought back against an Indiana team that had 2 losses. One to Ohio State, one to Michigan State. Michigan State ain't that good, but we thought they were going to be that good. So Indiana has every loss that it's played has been against a ranked opponent when it was at the time. So Indiana's a good football team. And whoever gets them in a bowl game is going to have a handful. At number 10, you got Florida, 9-2. They got a really good win against Missouri in which John Grinnard went off, 5 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, 6 tackles total. It was much more about Kyle Trask just kind of running the offense and the defense showing out against a Keller Bryant team where, Missouri ain't been bad, but they certainly have looked good. And I thought that in another year, perhaps they're competing for the SEC East Division. Goodness me, but not this year. Minnesota at 11, 9-1. They take an L to Iowa on the road. Didn't look great. Minnesota has left the chat when we're talking about college football playoff conversation. Now it's about what bowl game they can get into, whether or not they can still get into the Big Ten championship game by winning the Big Ten West and doing what nobody expects them to be able to do, which is beat Ohio State for a Big Ten championship, in which case that would be an interesting conversation to have. Would a one-loss Minnesota team with a Big Ten championship get in over a one-loss Ohio State team that's really, really good without a Big Ten championship? I would love to hear the answer to that question. Matter of fact, tell me about it in the comments below. Michigan at number 12, 8-2. Gets a good win against Michigan State. Michigan State ain't very good. Might have signed the death warrant or the death certificate for Mark D'Antonio. I don't know what else to do with Michigan State. They're in a bad way. The reshuffling of the offensive staff was just weird, and you knew that was a gamble that needed to pay off for him. I don't think it is, but I think that he's going to be somebody's outstanding defensive coordinator next year. Baylor, number 13, with the loss to Oklahoma. Where they were in the college football playoff rankings, they'll probably slide in those. Wisconsin at 8-2 gets a win against Nebraska, in which Jonathan Taylor goes for 204 yards on 25 carries. He's now passed Herschel Walker for the most yardage by a running back through 3 seasons through his junior year ever. He's also passed Archie Griffin for all-time yardage, and he's like 2,000 yards behind Ron Dane, and I expect him to come out earlier this year. But he's also the first UW player to rush for over 200 yards against the same opponent 3 times. And this was on a day in which Nebraska announced a 2-year extension for Scott Frost, and they responded by getting beat down by the Badgers. At number 15, Notre Dame beat down a Navy team that was decent. Now they have as many losses as Navy, which means that Notre Dame is a really good American team. Auburn at 7-3, number 16. They took an L to Georgia. Bo Nix literally threw away their opportunity to tie this game, in which they could have shocked the world at Jordan Hare. Bo Nix had been very good when playing at home, and as a true freshman, I think he's been through the fire. They're going to be good next year. Just got to grow him up a little bit, and you also got to be careful with him because Joey Gatewood ain't back there to backstop you anymore. So it'd be interesting to see this Auburn-Alabama game in which it'd be Bo Nix versus Mac Jones and not Tua Tagovailoa just destroying an Auburn defense. So the Iron Bowl is by no means an easy win for Alabama. Might be a good win for Auburn this year. Number 17, Cincinnati, a 3-point win against South Florida. I mean, my goodness, if Charlie Strong gets a good quarterback, they'll be okay. They'll be really good. Cincinnati is on a collision course with Memphis for the American Championship, and the way that they played against East Carolina, needing a last-ditch field goal, the way that they played against South Florida, I fully expect Memphis to handle Cincinnati, a Cincinnati team that has one loss, but it's lost 42-0 to Ohio State. Memphis at number 18, I touched them already. Right now, they're just trying to keep Mike Norvell. And perhaps Mike Norvell ends up at Arkansas or Florida State or wherever, but he's going to be a hot head coaching commodity, and you're going to have to back up a truck to keep him at Memphis. I don't think that they will. Number 19, Iowa gets the good win against Minnesota, a team that was undefeated, and to many a soft undefeated, but I say undefeated is undefeated. Good win for Kirk Ferentz and his boys. Number 20, Boise State beat down New Mexico last night. They are a one-loss team. They are a good football team. It'll be interesting to see where they rank in the bowl schedules. Number 21, Southern Methodist is coming off of a bye where they get a Navy team that's going to be coming off of a loss to Notre Dame. That ought to be a really good game. I'm interested to see how the Mustangs finish out this season after taking a wild loss, like wildly played game to Memphis earlier this year in a game that was on primetime television on ABC. Number 22, Oklahoma State handles Kansas. Chuba Hubbard, again, just a monster. I need this dude to get a Heisman finalist invitation, and I don't know what Alex Grinch is going to do in a couple weeks when it comes time to stop him, but seeing as TCU has apparently found their office the last couple of weeks, he's already got a tall task on his hands later this week. Number 23, Appalachian State, 9-1. Starts out slow against Georgia State, ends up hanging 56 on Georgia State. I think they are the best Group of 5 team playing football today. That includes all the teams in the American. You don't want no problems with Appalachian State. Georgia Southern was able to get them, but Georgia Southern's also putting up points on people, and they doggone near beat down Minnesota earlier this year. Number 24, Texas A&M. They get a W last night against South Carolina, which is great for them and great for Georgia, because South Carolina would have beaten up on Texas A&M. It's not so good. As for A&M, they're beating everybody they should be. They're 7-3. They're just not that good. Number 25, Vodtech at 7-3. Vodtech has quietly put together quite a run after starting out slow. And we're talking about Fuente and whether or not he's going to be out and whether or not the boys were letting down Bud Foster in what is likely to be his final year coaching football. They came back. Let's see. Others receiving votes include Indiana with 47. Again, played a really good Penn State team, played them close. 3 losses to ranked opponents. Good team. Iowa State at 31 gets the big win against Texas. Matt Campbell is the first the first Iowa State coach to beat all the Big 12 members in a league that still wants to act like Texas A&M and Missouri and Colorado and Nebraska are never in it, but I don't want to take that away from a good season that Iowa State is having. They're headed to 7-5 still, and that's fine. That's good. You played Oklahoma to a 1-point loss, damn near should have beat them, and you beat up on Tom Herman. That's a good season. Virginia at 23, Navy at 13, Air Force at 12, Pittsburgh at 9, San Diego State at 7, USC got 6 votes, Washington got 6 votes, Texas got 4 votes, Illinois with the vote, Lovie Smiths. All right, that is it for me. Deuces.